A year would pass and another tournament would come around. He and Pycon would get to the finals and it's pretty much just a repeat of last time. Nothing's really changing. He's getting stronger, sure, but how much does he have to raise his power level before it's enough? Really, he sees himself as the strongest he could possibly be. He's already a Super Saiyan. His power level in base is stronger than it was in Great Ape only a couple of years ago. As far as he's concerned, he's reached his peak in terms of strength. Any more would just be putting a hat on top of another hat, which doesn't make you look cool, just a little silly. And so, after training a little bit more with Pycon and Otherworld, Bardock would head back to the land of the living. He goes from Baba's palace to Mount Paozu without saying a word to anybody, not Grandpa Gohan and not his son. He just heads to his spaceship and tries to get it started again. Sadly though, it doesn't work. Being inactive for so many years caused it to kind of just fritz out. Bardock would go to Grandpa Gohan and ask who the smartest person on this planet is. Of course, Gohan would be a little surprised that this is the first thing Bardock has said to him in years. He doesn't ask about Goku, his son, no, just who's the smartest guy on this planet, so casually. But Gohan actually does have an answer. If he's talking martial arts based, it's Master Korin, since Gohan never actually ascended to train with Kami. So he believes the little white kitty cat is the most skilled martial artist on the planet. Although if he's talking technological know-how, then that's undoubtedly Dr. Briefs. Admittedly though, Gohan doesn't know how to find him. He just knows that this Dr. Briefs guy was able to shrink matter. Take something as big as a yacht and shrink it into a tiny little capsule. Not destroy it or anything, just pop the capsule open and the yacht's back to normal. That sort of stuff should be impossible, but Dr. Briefs is a miracle worker because he achieved it. Hearing all of this and deciding that this guy probably knows how to repair a spaceship, Bardock heads off in search of the genius Dr. Briefs. Despite not desiring all the fame, he did have his face plastered on billboards all across the world, so he's not exactly the hardest man to find, and eventually Bardock would locate him. They would have a short talk, and the scientist is absolutely astounded to find out he's communicating with an alien. Not just that, one that appears to be very human-like. The only visual difference between humans and Saiyans is one has a tail, and I guess significantly spikier hair, although that could just be anime. Being a man of science, Dr. Briefs wants to study every last little bit of Bardock's DNA, everything that makes Saiyans different from humans. Although the Saiyan doesn't have time for that, he just wants his ship to be repaired so he can get off-world. He has places to be, although he will eventually return to Earth, only because his son is there. And even if Bardock won't admit it, he does still care for his offspring. Speaking of Goku though, if Dr. Briefs really wants to study Saiyan biology, Bardock can just bring his kid here. Capsule Corp is a major upgrade from Mount Paozu, even if Grandpa Gohan's house is mighty cozy. As long as the scientist isn't gonna cut him up into little pieces, Bardock is fine bringing his son here. And of course, as Dr. Briefs would agree, not only does he get to raise an alien child, but he also gets to study a spacecraft that is hyper-advanced. So, as the scientist begins working on the spacecraft, Bardock would go to Mount Paozu, grabbing Goku and talking with Grandpa Gohan, who was a little reluctant, seeing as for the past 8-ish years he's only seen Bardock twice, and he has been raising this kid after all. But it is Bardock's son, so the choice isn't really up to him. He grabs a bag and packs away all of Goku's possessions, as well as filling a bento box for the boy. He hands him the bag and then the box before seeing them off. But he does promise to keep in touch since he is still Goku's martial arts master. After arriving back at Capsule Corp, Goku and Bulma would meet and become quick friends. The two get along together well, although Bardock really doesn't care. He's just happy to have a nice warm bed to sleep on while waiting for his pawn to be repaired. And after a couple of weeks, it would be. In fact, it would even be modified. That way it can go to place even faster than before. The Saiyan warrior thanks his scientist, now friend, before boarding his spaceship and heading off into the deep open void of space. He has one destination in mind: Planet Cereal. Not too long ago, he saved an Namekian as well as a Cerealian child. His name was Granola, and he was pretty powerful for a kid. Not only that, he also had some pretty interesting abilities. Sure, the young man is nowhere near as strong as he was in Dragon Ball Super, but he has still been training ever since the day Bardock saved him and his mother. I know I said we were only utilizing Bardock from the Z Special, and we are, personality-wise. Although everything we know that Bardock did in canon, he did still do. Seeing as we haven't even started Dragon Ball proper yet, I'm not sure how old Granola is, although I'll say he's around 17, 18. This might not be very accurate to the original story, but I would like to point out that this is my channel and I can do whatever the fuck. Seeing Granola for the first time in literal years, Bardock would offer him the chance to get back at the person who really orchestrated the attack on his planet, this being Frieza. Of course, the green-haired hitman wants to do it, although he is a little torn. He's nowhere near strong enough yet to take on Frieza, but that's where Bardock comes in. He says that he knows just the person to train with, somebody who can make him many times stronger. Then to prove it, he powers up into Super Saiyan, as well as showing off his full power. Having learned to sense ki from Mojito, Granola would be incredibly impressed. This is insane. In fact, it might rival Frieza's strength, but Bardock says not yet. That's why he's here. He needs other people to help him launch an attack against the tyrant. He might be the legendary Super Saiyan, but as it currently stands, he can't take on Frieza alone, so he's reforming his squad, although this time with some new members, since his old team is scattered throughout space and tracking them down would take far too long. He's definitely still going to look for them, although more passively for the moment. He has more pressing matters to attend to. Plus, his team is purposely hiding out, trying not to be found and staying under Frieza's radar, so it would take far too long to find them. Not to mention that the rest of his squad is probably terribly weak in comparison to himself. He spent the last couple of years training tirelessly, and he always had more potential than any other Saiyan he knew. And the kind of potential that Bardock sees in Granola is similar to his own, if not massively surpassing it. So he decides to have Granola train with the other Kais. Bardock would snap his fingers and Pikkon would appear, utilizing the Kai to teleport from place to place. He would then ask Granola if he wants to go train with the best teachers in the universe. There's no doubt in the Saiyan's mind that if Granola does this, then he'll be a proper threat to Frieza, as well as a worthy addition to Bardock's team. So Granola would agree, going first to train with the East Kai. Monito would make himself known, asking what happened to Granola, where did they take him? And Bardock explains, and because of his actions on planet Cereal years ago, the Namekian is able to trust him. In fact, Monito even wants to help take down Frieza, so he offers Bardock the chance to use their Dragon Balls. And seeing as Bardock's never really used them before, even if he's heard of them, he is a bit surprised, although he does have a quick wish in mind. Rather than trying to gain new power, he wants some information. He wants to know where the Saiyan known as Broly is, if he's still alive. Broly was known across planet Vegeta as a Saiyan that was wrongly exiled, although nobody ever outright said this, because the king would get mad whenever it was brought up. A Saiyan child with power that even surpassed his own. King Vegeta could take pride in the fact that his son had a power level even exceeding his own. At such a young age, that was definitely impressive, and the king was able to find some pride in it even if it hurt his ego. Although another child being even stronger than that is definitely a problem. Side note, but the way that Saiyan class systems work, how strong you are when you are first born is how strong you remain for most of your life, aside from Zenkai boosts, since Saiyans didn't typically train, which is why low, medium, and high-class warriors, that status remained with you your entire life. So just imagine you're a proud Saiyan warrior, you just conquered some world, and you're remembering back to when you were a baby, and you're thinking, yeah, that'd be a close fight. Absolutely insane. Either way, Tarambo would answer Bardock's question, saying that the Saiyan known as Broly is currently alive and in his teenage years. He's currently with his father on planet Vampa. They're stranded there and need some dire assistance. Although Taramba is not going to bring them here, he already did everything he was asked. Well, unless they want to make a deal, Tarambo says that he'd be more than willing to bring Broly and Paragus to wherever Bardock wants, as long as he takes their place on Vampa. Everything has a price, and Bardock agrees, although a little reluctant. He's mad the all-powerful wish-granting dragon can't just bring them here, no cost attached, but he's more than willing to make the switch. So, much like Shinron before him, Tarambo glows his eyes red, granting the wish and bringing Bardock to Vampa, and Broly and Paragus to planet Cereal. Then, almost instantly, Bardock reaches into his pocket and pulls out the capsule with his ship, popping it open and climbing aboard. Making sure that Broly and Paragus don't immediately attack Monaito, Bardock would set up a telepathic link between the three Saiyans, with the aid of King Kai of course. He communicates their plans to launch an attack on Frieza, and if this is going to happen, then he's going to need everybody to get along, meaning no fighting for the time being. And even though this would almost be a problem for Paragus, it's not for Broly. The former is obviously very untrusting of pretty much everybody right now. However, Broly is calm and reserved. He's a gentle giant even though he has incredible power. It wouldn't take long for Bardock to return to planet Cereal from Vampa, seeing as the two planets weren't too far apart, and the ship that Dr. Briefs made was incredibly fast. So after a couple of hours, Bardock would return to meet the two Saiyans. Monaito would have given them some of the only good food they'd had in ages, and for Broly pretty much his entire life. Paragus would ask if there's any way for them to take a shower and get some new clothes. They had been wearing the same armor for the last 15-ish years, and Monaito would then direct them to a bathhouse not too far away, as well as creating some new armor for the pair. Once the two of them were cleaned and suited up, Broly would ask the Green Man if there was any way for him to clean Ba's ear. He doesn't want to part with it, but he doubts his father will let him wear it with this nice clean armor. And of course, Monaito would agree. He's kind of weirded out by how nice and cautious this young boy is. He is still a Saiyan after all. But Monaito isn't going to just deny his request because he's a Saiyan. That'd be racist. Instead, he decides to look past his prejudice and accept the fact that these two are cut from a different cloth, kinda like Bardock. Speaking of that Saiyan warrior though, when he arrives back on the planet, he would begin talking with Paragus, realizing he is the older of the two and most likely Broly's father, who was exiled with him. Paragus would ask if King Vegeta is still alive, and Bardock says he doesn't know, but it's definitely possible. He remembers his old teammate Fasha saying that she was going to go and recruit King Vegeta to their cause, as well as trying to save him from the planet's destruction, although there's no way of telling whether or not she was successful. But then he gets a vision. He sees a glimpse into the future and witnesses not only Fasha and King Vegeta, but also the rest of his squad on some green grassy planet. But they're not just standing around, they're going up against somebody. In fact, two somebodies, Zarbon and Dodoria. But they're not fighting alone either, as he sees somebody that looks vaguely similar to Monaito with them, definitely from the same species, although he can't narrow it down. He doesn't know the person in front of him, nor the planet, but he definitely knows it has something to do with his friends, as well as the Namekians. So he asks Monaito if he knows where his original planet is. He says that he's not really sure, although suggests talking with the Kais, as they probably have an adept understanding of the universe and where exactly each planet is. So, yet again, Bardock sets up a telepathic link between himself and King Kai, asking where planet Namek is and how they're supposed to get there. And even though King Kai does know where it is, he can't exactly help with the get there part, as they only have one ship, but this shouldn't be a problem, as Pikkon can teleport in and bring them to planet Namek, with King Kai's help navigating of course. But that's not gonna work either, seeing as Pikkon is still dead. Sure, he can teleport to the land of the living and back to the realm of the dead, but going from place to place in a realm that he doesn't belong is an entirely different story. But there is another way to get to planet Namek with just one ship. Kind of. Monaito is a Namekian and thus has various magical abilities, which doesn't just stop at creating clothes for people and making Dragon Balls. He can also duplicate any sort of item, which very much includes spaceships, although it definitely is more complex than creating a pair of jeans. So it'll definitely take a hot minute before they're ready to go, although once he has an adept understanding of the ship inside and out, recreating it will be no problem. After about 2 days of magical studying, Monaito would be able to duplicate the ship. He makes 2 copies, that way Broly and Paragus have their own ships. While he was doing that though, the 3 Saiyans would be sharing stories. Paragus would mostly be ranting about how much he hates the Vegeta dynasty, although Bardock has some more complex and fun stories to tell. Even if they do all mostly end the same, with "then we blew up the planet." Either way, now with everything they need, the gang sets course for planet Namek.